Thank you for joining us this morning for the VIP armchair discussion with Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker. We're live streaming the program this morning, so welcome to our virtual attendees as well. I'm Chris Shepard, the Executive Director of the Colorado Clean Tech Industries Association, and we're honored to be one of the partners welcoming Secretary Pritzker and Edward Fenster, the co-founder and chairman of Sunrun, to Denver. I'm also pleased to recognize Congressman Ed Perlmutter, who's down here in front, one of our strongest supporters for economic development and clean tech in Colorado. Thanks for your continuing efforts on our behalf. As the voice for the hundreds of clean tech companies in the state, I want to thank the Obama administration for its leadership in the global climate negotiations and the Clean Power Plan initiative. These efforts are directly tied to economic development, and they bolster our company's efforts to add employees, raise investment capital, and be the economic engine for our state. So there's a very strong correlation between these climate initiatives and creation of jobs in Colorado. So thank you again for joining us this morning. I'm pleased to welcome Tammy Door from the Downtown Denver Partnership to say a few words and make the introductions. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Door. I serve as the president and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership. And welcome to our virtual attendees to Denver, and of course to all of our great leaders in the room today. To start off, I would just like to take a moment and let you know about the place that you are in, the Commons on Champa. This is a public-private partnership committed to helping small businesses start up and make it and grow to the next level. This is a town hall for entrepreneurs. We provide resources, access to community and education, and it's a very powerful and inspiring space. So we're very proud of this partnership with the Colorado Technology Association, the Downtown Denver Partnership, and the City and County of Denver. So it's serving as a great model for both other places in the Rocky Mountain West and across the U.S. Today, as we kick off our panel, there's no more fitting place to hold this. The United States was truly built on entrepreneurship. It was truly built on startups, and it was truly built on business. The power of the economy is the ability to truly change lives, and some of that is what we'll be talking about here today. I'm going to walk through who our panelists will be, and then we'll welcome them to the stage. Our moderator today will be Erik Mitisek, a great colleague of mine, again, in the Commons on Champa, as well as a co-founder of Denver Startup Week. Erik is the CEO of the Colorado Technology Association. He also has a tremendous amount of experience in starting and growing companies in both the travel industry as well as the online software industry. So he knows what it means to build a company. We also today will welcome the co-founder and chairman of Sunrun, Ed Fenster. Ed has made it as a mission to create affordable solar for American families. Through his work, he's helped to craft policy, regulatory initiatives to really shape the industry to ensure that we have a sustainable solar industry for our future. In turn, he as well brings a significant amount of private sector experience to the table and entrepreneurial experience and recognition, as he was previously recognized as an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award winner. So we're really thrilled to have Ed here as well today. And of course, our special guest, Secretary Pritzker. Secretary Pritzker has made it her mission to ensure that companies throughout the country have the resources they need to grow and to hire individuals throughout the country, whether it is a small startup company, a mid-sized company, or a large company. It is about growing commerce in our country. She brings to the table experience in a number of different industries. She herself running and owning companies ranging from real estate to agriculture, as well as serving on some very premier corporate boards throughout the United States. So please join me in welcoming our panelists to today's session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Commons on Champa. And as Tammy Door, my colleague, mentioned, there's not a more suiting place for this type of dialogue. We live for these opportunities to be able to bring our private sector together with our public sector to talk about the most impactful things that are happening in our world today. And so this is a very special occasion that we have Madam Secretary, as well as one of our very newest recruits and great companies in Colorado at Fenster here from Sunrun. As I look out today, and this is truly a partnership, the City and County of Denver, the Down Denver Partnership, as well as some really great partners like Comcast to make this a reality. When we think about the live streaming today, the multi-gigabit connection that's free to our members and partners in here make this an opportunity where the private sector can shine. And so we really thank them for their help. On behalf of the Colorado Technology Board of Directors, we couldn't be more excited to host this today. We have board members, J.B. Holston here in the front row, Keith Barrett's our secretary, and our outgoing board chair, Steve Foster, in the room, who've been leading this organization for years, making it into the organization it is today. And we couldn't start this without a great partnership with Chris Shepard, who's our partner in crime with the Colorado Clean Tech Industries Association, and Ms. Fiona Arnold and Michelle Hadwiger, who've been able to drive our economic development to the next level, who've been serving the governor to really define Colorado as a place that not only we can grow and build companies, but a place that they vehemently want to compete to be here, like Sunrun. So with that, we welcome Madam Secretary to the Commons and to Colorado. And Ed, it's our honor to have you decide to build one of the largest expansions in your company's history here in our state. There's not a better place with a collaborative environment to work alongside of our public sector and our private sector to build a solar business of the future. When we talk about today, climate change is something that we cannot deny. This is in and around us every day. These are issues that what we thought may have been something of a marketing opportunity or thought of may have been something that could have been propped up from a propaganda perspective, climate change is real. And as we look at the technology that's driving these types of things going forward, the relationship between our private sector and our academics to drive out the greatest technology to really manage our carbon footprint of the future, as well as the entrepreneurs that are going to come up with these ideas, it really allows us an opportunity here in the state to shine. Sunrun is just one of an incredible portfolio of companies. We have a huge group of CEOs here today and leaders from our clean tech industry that are leading us into that next generation. And without your vision, your grit, your hustle, and your hope for a better future in the state, we would not be able to be the great state that we are and drive this dialogue, not only with clean tech here in our local community, but globally. So thank you. So to get started today, let's set the stage. In December, we had over 195 nations come together in Paris. We had 50,000 attendees at this historic conference. And just 5 years earlier, in 2009, we had almost stalemate. A similar agreement was put up for consideration, and not only did it not pass, it was left almost with angst that we could not move forward the discussion on climate change. Fast forward to December 2015, and we had 195 nations ratify what is now known as the Paris Agreement. Ban Ki-moon, the executive director of our United Nations, has said that this is a historic agreement, not only for the work that the UN does, but as a civilization to really define our economy of the future and make sure that the elements and discussions around climate change and clean energy and the world we live in are not only a reality, but we work together as a collaborative economy, global economy, across 195 nations to make this work. So it's with our great honor, we have someone who's an incredible partner in driving that dialogue forward, and a visitor from the cabinet and the White House herself, Ms. Secretary Penny Pritzker. And to start off the discussion today, we're here with an incredible collection of technology firms and clean tech innovators. What happened in Paris, I just mentioned, it's historic. But what does it mean for the U.S. business community?
It's a huge opportunity for the U.S. business community. As you said, 195 countries have come together, and they've stated what are their intentions as to how to address climate change. So what they've done is they've given a roadmap as to what they intend to do. So for example, China has said they're going to cap emissions by 2030, but they also said that 20% of their generation will come from renewables by 2030. So enormous renewables market just in China, the largest market in the world, over $100 billion. But you also have India that said that they're going to triple their renewables capabilities by 2022, and that 40% of their electricity generation will come from renewables. So they're laying out, here's our intention, here's what we intend to do. The U.S. is committed to further reductions, the U.S. being a $50+ billion renewables market. Even Indonesia making very significant commitments to have 23% of their energy mix in renewables. Today it's 4%. So all these countries have laid out what they want to do. But all these countries do not possess the technology to actually achieve what they want to do. That's the opportunity. And so there's enormous demand for the goods and services offered by our renewables companies, by our great innovators. And so I think that this is an enormous opportunity, business opportunity. And in fact, last April, in advance of Paris, I took 23 renewables companies on a trade mission to China. And we brought technologies that the Chinese do not possess. China does have great capacity in, let's say, producing solar panels, but they don't have some of the great biomass technologies that we have, a lot of the services that we have, even the engine capability. It's also, I think we have to keep in mind, as an energy opportunity around the world. It's not just for new companies, but even companies like Cummins Engine, almost 100 years old. This is a great opportunity for them because they've been creating products that function and utilize renewable technology. So it's a very large opportunity that comes from this statement. And I think the other thing that's so positive about it, what I know from the business, my own business experiences, it's no good to have a short-term commitment. These countries have said, we're going to every 5 years come and update our commitments, and we're going to hold each other accountable. That's new, and that's exciting for business because it means this is not a flash in the pan.
I might actually just add one thing that's exciting is that, Madam Secretary is absolutely correct. There's a huge technology export and domestic opportunity in clean energy. There's also a huge opportunity in the deployment of clean energy. So the fantastic thing about solar or wind is you're effectively substituting a labor cost for fuel cost. And so the employment opportunity is enormous. So, the solar industry in the United States employs more people than the coal industry despite only servicing, 1% of load so far. So there's a tremendous, domestic opportunity in the deployment as well.
And one other point I want to make that I think is really interesting. As oil prices are plummeting, as natural gas prices have come down, what's different now is renewables remain competitive. And you saw the largest global expenditure on renewables last year ever in the history of the world, about $330 billion. That's something that is new to the dynamic. And that's why this is a sustainable market opportunity and something that we have to capitalize on, and American businesses need to capitalize on.
Well, it sounds like this is an amazing opportunity. And as we look forward, Ed, you're not only a founder of a major U.S. solar company, but in President Obama's State of the Union address, he specifically mentioned the opportunity around rooftop solar in the State of the Union. When you look forward, what do these policies mean? What do these concepts mean for a company like yours, and more broadly for our renewable energy economy in the U.S.?
Yeah, so great question. So there really are two key policies that support solar domestically. One is the investment tax credit, which was extended for half a decade in the last few months. That's a fantastic. As a citizen and as obviously a solar company leader, great appreciation for the president's support in getting that done. And the solar industry, to the Secretary's point, is finally at the point where we really can scale. The costs are really there, the resources are there, and now we have the runway to do it. The other policy that's critical is a state-level policy. It's called net metering. It exists in about 44 states. For instance, here in Colorado as well. As solar has become actually cost-effective, a few years ago, the Edison Electric Institute, which is the utility trade group, has been pushing to end that policy. Governor Hickenlooper has been helpful in having an open dialogue here in Colorado and keeping that policy. The criticalness of that policy was just actually demonstrated in Nevada, where Governor Sandoval's appointees there ended the solar market, causing thousands of job losses as well. So, we're hopeful that the states will continue to support solar as well, and and look forward to a bright future.
When you look forward in that same vein, the extension of the tax credit created a great opportunity. But as we look at policy being one of the greatest innovations of our future technology economy, what threats do you see of this continued growth? And what can we learn from markets like Las Vegas, where I know that just recently they started institute policy where they've actually not been able to even deploy your products.
Yeah.
What are some of those threats?
So, there are really two, stability is really what's most important to our industry. Solar is expensive, and so the way that you deploy it cost effectively is by borrowing money. And what lenders need is stability. And so long-term policy is actually much more effective than short-term bursts of more generous policy, and really that's what's key. So what happened in Las Vegas was that, in addition to ending sort of future development, the policies that Governor Sandoval's appointees put forth retroactively undermined the investment of all 17,000 homeowners in the state. And so lenders look at that and they say, we can't support development in a state that makes retroactive changes. So those sort of long-term consistent policies are really what's most important and what we need to continue to succeed.
Well, we're really excited to have you come in from Silicon Valley and bring that energy of innovation here in our state. It's something that we share amongst all of us in the room. Madam Secretary, you touched on some of the things that Indonesia and China and some of our great powers in the world are doing to combat climate change. What are we doing specifically in the United States?
Well, if you look at the leadership role that President Obama has taken in this area, it's really been extraordinary and sustained. And it started with, when we were in the Great Recession and the federal government got involved with the auto industry and the bailout of the auto industry. Part of that deal was, okay, we're going to raise CAFE standards, which began to the change. And then in 2013, you saw the president announce his climate action plan. In that plan, that includes, for example, the EPA Clean Power Plant rules, which are committing to reduce emissions by about 30% by 2030. So there's a lot that's been going on, both from a regulatory, technology, and policy standpoint working together. And there's a general commitment also in the president's plan that we will have 30% more renewables over the next 15 years. But in addition to rules and regulations, there's also a voluntary commitments that are being made by the private sector that are so important. And the White House and the administration has worked to catalyze a group of about 154 companies that came together and took the climate pledge. And the climate pledge is you agree as a company to reduce emissions by 50%, to reduce your water use by 80%, to achieve zero waste to landfill, to pursue zero net deforestation in your supply chain, and to purchase 100% of your energy from renewables. Companies like American Express have made this commitment, Coca-Cola, Disney. And what they're doing is, what they recognize is being sustainable is good business. And studies have shown that over 50% of consumers worldwide are willing to pay extra to buy their products from companies that have a sustainability commitment. And so, American Express has 100% of their electricity at their headquarters is carbon-free at this point. Coca-Cola is working to reduce the carbon footprint of a Coke in hand across their entire supply chain by reducing their carbon emissions 25% by 2020. Disney has made a commitment to reduce net emissions by 50% by 2020. These are very ambitious goals that important American companies are undertaking and setting an example for all of us. So this isn't just the public sector, it's the private sector as well.
So that's an incredible list of companies, and there's always been a lot of skeptics around the balance between value of being able to deploy these type of renewables inside of the private sector and really switching the energy mix without hurting the economy. How would you respond to those views as you look at these incredible portfolio of brands that are deploying these technologies?
Well, I think that may have been the case 20 years ago, but that is not the case today. And if you look at net output from renewables, the productivity is so much greater than it used to be. So the administration has done, even if you think back 7 years ago in terms of the investments, the largest investments made in renewables ever by the federal government through ARA during the Great Recession, is yielding the kind of technology benefits that are making these technologies competitive, even in dropping energy, dropping energy cost markets. So that's where we need to be. Ultimately, these solutions have to be price competitive, and we're getting there. That's the point that's so exciting. The technology is meeting the market price.
I'd love for you to add a little bit to that. You started your company in 2009 at the bottom of our last recession, where the balance between renewables and the market opportunity was low. But you and Lynn saw an amazing opportunity. I'd love to get your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, so I think the thing that's so exciting to us about rooftop solar, and why I think it'll really be the widget that helps us, materially with global warming, is that it's adopted as a matter of consumer choice. If you think back, 2 decades ago, the only way you ended up with renewables was when you mandated it. And now consumers are driving it, businesses are driving it because it's cheaper. And that's really how we're going to get the tables to turn. And I think what we saw in 2009 was, there were significant subsidies in California and federally, but we believe, if we just hang in there, our costs are going to come down. They're a fifth of what they were then. We've still got more work to do for sure, but every day we get better, and that's the glide path is clear now.
I think the fact that almost all Fortune 500 companies today have a chief sustainability officer is a major statement about the fact that this is not a passing fancy, that this is real, it's competitive, and it's something that major corporations around our country are saying they've got to adopt and figure out, even if it's not their core business, how are they going to make it adopt sustainable practices in order to attract more business.
You talked about what the United States is doing to drive this. How specifically is the Commerce Department helping the U.S. companies meet the world's growing demand for climate-friendly technologies? What are you doing within your department?
The department has a really exciting role, a number of roles across many parts of our department. I'll start with the Patent and Trademark Office. We protect the innovations.
And thank you for bringing your first satellite.
We're so excited about that.
And Mr. Perlmutter,
yes,
thank you very much.
We're very, very excited about that.
Mr. Bennett's team, I'm sure, is here as well, so thank you.
Our International Trade Administration helps provide market intelligence for companies as to where the opportunity is. We do a top markets report. We also we negotiate with other countries around the world. We're negotiating the Environmental Goods and Services Agreement at the WTO, which will bring in tariffs on environmental goods to zero. We also negotiated, for example, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which has the same effect among 12 nations in the world that are committing to trade environmental goods and services with zero tariffs, which is extremely important. Our National Institute of Standards and Technology has provided a disaster resilience framework. It also sets the standards for most of the products, if not all the products that are created. We provide climate data. NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is part of Commerce. We are the source of the science and the data that is being used to better understand our environment. So that's, we're the source of environmental intelligence. And we work on market access everywhere, so that if our goods, our services are being running into impediments to be able to be sold around the world, we're there to fight for our company. So we play a lot of different roles. Those are just a few of them, but it's an exciting part of the work that we do at the Department of Commerce.
One of the things we have in common with the Patent Office and Sunrun is that as you expanded your footprint, you both chose to expand your opportunities here in Denver. When you looked at all the options out there for developing renewables across the United States, Colorado's, as the location for a major corporate office, where you're planning to hire, I've heard, over 800 people. What was behind that decision that you and Lynn wanted to move here?
Yeah, there are really three key factors that led us to Colorado. The first one is the quality of the workforce, which is fantastic. The second one is it's an exciting place to live. We even have employees in San Francisco who are excited at are asking us if they can move out here. And then finally,
same problem with Google. It's an opportunity.
Exactly. And then finally, and most importantly, Governor Hickenlooper has had supportive policies for solar, has kept an open dialogue with the industry. And it's important, obviously, that we locate our businesses in such states. So those were kind of the three key factors. We just got going. We're almost up to 100 employees already, and we're excited to continue to build out our office there.
Well, we're really excited. Another one of the partnerships we have in the state is between Wells Fargo and the National Energy Renewables Lab. And we have an IN2 incubator and accelerator to help drive some of the next clean energy and renewable activities right here in our state. Films on buildings, solars on roof, et cetera. So we're really excited to have you as part of that dialogue as we move forward.
We're excited to be here.
And Madam Secretary, the next question is kind of a two-part question. I think as we dig deeper, as Secretary of Commerce, you travel internationally. When I was able to look at your Twitter feed getting ready for this, I just saw you have made a trip to Cuba. You've been all over the globe in the last year. What are foreign governments doing to address climate change? And most importantly, what are the biggest opportunities for our American companies in those emerging markets?
So I've been to about 35 countries around the world in my tenure in this position, and what's amazing to me is uniformly I have yet to run into country leadership that doesn't want to see our American companies present. So what's happening though out there is, as you said, as we've seen in Paris, countries have made commitments to meet renewables targets and to lower emissions. But they're also innovating. They want to have their own solutions as well as buy solutions from others. And so they're both customers and competitors. So we have to be smart about how we go to market with our companies, and that's what we're trying to do at the Department of Commerce. You're seeing countries like Japan they're going through a huge energy transformation, trying to become less dependent on nuclear than they were. India is buying billions of dollars of solar installations. They're also, buying a lot of coal and building a lot of coal, which is a challenge, right? Europe is a leader in this field. Africa is transitioning themselves to more renewables presence, as is the Middle East. And so there's opportunity around the world. What we're trying to do at the department is be a real partner with our American companies, and we were just talking about the number of trade missions that we both have led. I think we've done 10 over the last several years in clean energy, and we need to do more. But also working on market access. That's why the Trans-Pacific Partnership is such an important agreement. A part of that is really focused on environmental goods and services, not just market access, but also insisting that other countries are not doing illegal fishing or using deforestation as a way to be market competitive. And then, the other area we're focused on is financing. We really need to go to market with our financing organizations, whether it's Exim and others, so that we're supporting our American businesses as they're competing around the world. Because it is a competition, but we have innovations and products that are unique and that we need to be taking advantage of the market opportunity as soon as possible.
Sounds like the future is bright. And when you hear things like Madam Secretary say, India's expanding their solar aggressively. As a Colorado company and California company, how do you look at that from an opportunity perspective, and what are your plans for those types of things?
It's a great question. So, first we have a lot of work to do here at home. As I mentioned, solar is less than 1% penetrated. Homeowners spend $170 billion a year on electricity in the United States. So there's a lot to do here. And it's kind of everything we can do to keep the wheels from coming off the cart right now, growing in the United States. Certainly, as the years pass, and particularly with the investment tax credit extension, we hope we might service another 10 to 15 states, kind of double the number of states that were in the United States, and also potentially start to service international markets. So there's obviously a lot of also personal interest in the company to help with particularly places that don't even have electrification, where solar is a really fantastic technology. So there's a long global opportunity set ahead that we're very excited about.
So the Secretary mentioned that they're looking at financing options more on the corporate side. When you look at the consumer, you said less than 1% penetration, and we look at the financing opportunities that I've heard that you've helped pioneer a lot of those. When you look at that, what's the reason for a family and our consumers or our businesses choosing to install solar today, and what are some of the incentives that you're really pushing for to make sure your business thrives?
Yeah, so I mean, they install it because we save money for them, and they lock in a low rate for 20 years. And they also feel good about what they're doing for the economy. But it's really, those are the three pillars. And in order to scale it and to do it at low cost, you need to be able to describe also to a homeowner exactly what you expect their savings are going to be, which is another reason the net metering policy is so important. Because without that, a consumer's savings become a function of when they're at home. And solar facilities are going to outlive even individual homeowners. They move from homeowner to homeowner as people move. So that's why that's the really critical policy. But with that, and with the runway we have with the investment tax credit, there's a huge opportunity for families and businesses in most families and businesses in the United States to lower their electric rates, with solar.
Well, I'm in your call queue, and I know that your team is incredibly diligent on making sure that I purchase solar. So thank you very much.
I don't have to ask you for your business card again then.
Thank you very, very much. Madam Secretary, the United States just finished negotiating, as you just mentioned, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I know that the trade is a large part of our portfolio as Commerce Secretary. What's the impact of this agreement on the environmental standards, and how will it create opportunities for the U.S. clean energy firms?
Well, first of all, step back. What it does is it does a couple things. First of all of these countries have agreed to, as part of Paris, to, emission standards. So that begins to define an opportunity. Then in TPP, it eliminates tariffs, which is a cost of us being able to sell our goods or our services into the 11 other countries. So, and the other thing it does is, as I said, it really, all of these countries have committed to certain behaviors, like not pursuing illegal fishing, not trafficking in wildlife, prohibited wildlife, not undertaking illegal logging and things like that. So it's an important, very important agreement for the sector because it will make our American-made goods and services less expensive in those markets.
Ed, do you need to add, as you kind of look from a trade perspective, when you look at as a clean energy firm, what are some of the things you're looking for to be able to incentivize your growth too?
Yeah, I mean, I think internationally, one thing we're looking forward to hopeful resolution on is there is a sort of tariff war, with China right now over solar panels that are making them more expensive and reducing the savings that Americans, that Americans are able to achieve. That's obviously a very complicated issue, with a lot that's going on, and we're hopeful that over a period of time we can resolve that.
Well, we know that you want to be a leader in the economy, and I see Sunrun's in 13 states. What's your growth pattern? You said there's 1% penetration. What's your velocity? I mean, how fast are you moving?
Yeah, so I mean, the industry has been growing. It's sort of, and when we talk about growth, we talk about the number of new customers this year versus last year. And the industry, the 3 public companies in the industry, of which we're one, have been growing at sort of 60 or 70% year over year. So it's a very high growth rate, particularly for a business, where we actually have to do things in the real world. We don't have the advantage of just operating on the internet, but the growth rate is continuing, and I think there's a lot of optimism.
Well, this is exciting to be here today. I think when you guys all had the chance to register, you had a chance to submit some questions, and so we'll switch to our audience Q&A. And the first question was submitted by Joel Surface, who's the Managing Director of Catalyze. And his question was, what's the administration doing to leverage the private sector funding to accelerate the deployment of clean energy, and how are these technologies following the Paris Agreement? So what's the funding mechanism?
Well, out of Paris came the Mission Innovation Initiative, which is a commitment to double global R&D in renewables over the next 5 years. And that's a commitment by both countries, the US and 19 countries, including India, China, Brazil, and others. But it's also, there's a companion commitment made by a group of about 28 private sector investors to match that kind of funding so that we can accelerate the R&D. Why is that so important? That's so important because of exactly what we were talking about, cost competitiveness. We need to not only create new products, but we also have to make sure that they can keep up from a cost standpoint. The other thing that we're doing is we're accelerating lab to market efforts with the advanced manufacturing institutes that the President and the administration has created. The Department of Commerce runs this network of advanced manufacturing institutes called the National Network of Manufacturing Institutes, where we're doing things like lightweight materials or composite materials in photonics and other things that can take innovations from lab to market in the next 5 to 7 years. And the goal of these institutes is to improve American competitiveness. But the other goal is it's not just a federally funded effort. This is a partnership between the private sector and the public sector. The federal government's putting up a piece of money, but basically the private sector matches it at least 1-to-1. And so there's a huge private sector commitment. That's the way innovation is going to, a significant part of innovation can occur in this country is partnerships between the private sector and the public sector, bringing together our universities, our private sector, and frankly our local governments. So lots of exciting things that we're doing. We also have the manufacturing extension partnerships, which is provided by the services provided by the Department of Commerce, where we work with manufacturers to have them to help them adopt world-class manufacturing processes so that they can be competitive globally. And that's another way that we're working with the private sector to help them be more efficient.
And I might just underscore there again, and one of the other reasons that the administration's support for the tax credit extension is so critical is, the development of renewable energy is enormously capital intensive. Actually one of the sad histories of energy development is it is so capital intensive that the people who invent technologies often, by the time the patent's expired and the technology gets deployed, it just takes so long. And so the way we have to deploy this technology is with the lowest cost money possible. And the way we get that is this long-term policy stability, which the federal government has just delivered. And that allows us to just access the deepest, lowest cost capital markets, which is what's really necessary to drive the deployment.
And also to that point, we give you great thanks for accelerating the patent process. To talking with the local regional director, the strides that the patent office has made to accelerate the approval process, engage with the constituents who applied during the patent process. We hope we can close that gap, and it sounds like your office and team are doing a tremendous job in accelerating the determinations on our U.S. patents.
We're really focused on two things. We're focused not just on acceleration, but also quality of a patent, so that once you have a patent, it's less susceptible to being challenged. And so there's a lot of innovation going on in our patent office. And the third thing is doing exactly what's happened here in Denver, bringing our services to our customer, right? Which is we're really trying to be very service oriented and very customer focused.
Well, we're feeling that firsthand right here in the Commons on Champa. We've met with your team, and we're going to have the opportunity to actually host some of our patent roundtables or patent discussions right here for entrepreneurs to walk in and engage directly with a patent attorney.
Fabulous.
And get the business done here.
That's
so we're really, really excited about it, and thank you. What will the administration be doing to make the Paris Agreement understandable to industry, and how can we be involved in that effort? That was submitted by Tom Hunt, who's the VP of Corporate Development for Clean Collective Energy.
Well, the first thing that we intend to make the commitments, which are called intended nationally determined contributions by each of the countries, to make those public. That's a way to give a roadmap to companies as to what each country is committed to do. So you'll have a knowledge, how are they intending to, or what they're trying to achieve, and then whether your good or service meets those needs. The second thing is we've been working with mayors. 117 mayors have committed to create public reports on their performance in terms of addressing climate change. That creates an opportunity to know where are the markets, who are the city leaders that are most committed to addressing climate change. As I said, we have, we're working with private sector companies to take the climate pledge and working with them to help achieve that. Colleges and universities also, about 300 colleges and universities have taken the climate pledge. So we're working closely with a number of, in different ways, both with providers of services, as I said, in terms of making greater information available so that you know where the marketplace is, in providing greater clarity as to who the potential customers are, whether it's both in the United States and the private sector, in our universities and others. And then we're working with the manufacturers to help them be more efficient and more effective in supplying goods so that we can meet the competitive challenge of being cost effective. So we play a number of different roles, and then of course we're working with the innovators to make sure that the standards that we've created are ones that are usable by industry so that we can create products that fit together and work together.
So it sounds like, as an industry, definitely encouraging folks to take the climate pledge, being deeply involved in that activity, but also driving on collaboration to make sure that these ideas and innovations get to market.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. The last question before we move to some closing remarks was submitted by David Hiller, who's the Executive Director of our Colorado Energy Research Collaboratory. And the question is, the nation's increasingly challenged by the competing and sometimes conflicting demands for water, energy, and food production. Our economy is dependent upon managing those demands in an equitable manner. And what is the role of the Department of Commerce in driving this critical conversation?
So the solving for, if you will, water, climate, food, energy consumption is we play a role in providing what we call environmental intelligence. So we are providing information about flooding, about droughts, about weather, so that better decisioning can be made as to what to plant, when to plant, or what are the water resources that are going to be available, what are the long-term outlooks, where's there going to be ocean rise, etc. We also measure the ocean. So we're providing information that can be used by local governments for resilience. If I think about it, our trade experts are working on helping companies understand market access to help solve these problems. Our economists are helping define what is the market opportunity. Our NOAA is providing environmental intelligence. Our NIST is providing standards so that we can have greater product development, and our patent and trademark office is providing the kinds of protections for our innovators. So we're playing a number of roles. And then our economic development agency obviously is encouraging cities and states to deploy in our public works greater use of renewables. So we're kind of all over the this segment of our economy in playing many different roles, and ultimately supporting both the public and the private sector.
And I'm going to add just one thing. Not all of those are in conflict. So like one good example is that over 95% of water extraction in the United States is cooling for fossil fuel power plants. And so the transition from coal or natural gas on the one side to wind and solar on the other actually has a fantastic effect on the availability of water for other uses like food production and drinking.
So this couldn't be more exciting for Colorado, the fact that both of you are here. As we move to some closing comments, I'd love to turn to both of you to offer up some closing thoughts for this great group. And really, on behalf of our association, our Clean Tech Association, our state of Colorado, and all the boards that serve those, we could not be more thankful. And so, Ev, do you want to give some closing comments?
Yeah, we're obviously very excited first to be here in Colorado. As I mentioned, we haven't even finished building out our office. We've got over 100, almost 100 people here so far, and there's great excitement around it in the company. and the state has been a fantastic partner to us. And we appreciate the solar-friendly policies and the open dialogue that we've had with the governor. Similarly, obviously there was just a very heavy lift, at the end of last year by leaders in Congress and the administration to get the tax credit extended. That's really created a runway for the solar and wind industries like we've never seen before. We're resourced, we're approaching scale, and we have that certainty now. So this is a really wonderful and fantastic time, I think, for renewable energy, both federally and in Colorado. We couldn't be more excited to be a part of it and to be growing our business, first and foremost here in Colorado.
Madam Secretary?
Well, I would say, President Obama has been an extraordinary leader in this entire initiative about, first of all, raising greater awareness about climate change, emphasizing the science, but then saying this is an opportunity for the world to collaborate with one another, to come together to make a commitment to our planet. But then he totally understands the fact this is an economic opportunity for our country. And he has been an unfailing supporter, whether it was in during the ARA legislation, making sure that we had investments being made into renewable energy so America could be competitive, but then making sure that we also have the tax credits necessary to keep this innovation growing at a time of early, and frankly, we only have 1% adoption. It is still early adoption, both domestically and globally. And so it's been an enormous pleasure to be a part of the President's economic team and work on these issues in so many different ways. And now to see what a great opportunity sits in front of so many of you here, whether you're in the public sector or the private sector, whether you're in not-for-profit or universities. I just think the renewables opportunity in the United States and around the world is enormous, and I'm very excited for our country.
Well, we are excited that you're here.
Thank you.
And as we look forward as a state, I think President Obama said in his opening remarks that 250 years ago, the United States was a startup. It was built by innovators. And I look at our own governor and a lot of our own electeds where that entrepreneurial core is one of those core solution sets that's going to allow us to take this really big, hairy problem and parse it down into great companies like Sunrun, parse it down into great companies in Colorado like Terralux, parse it down into great software businesses like Simple Energy. We have an incredible portfolio here in the state, and it's through that collaboration that I think Colorado has not only a position on that stage, but working with your administration and our great companies from afar, nationally we have a chance to take this issue of climate change and together impact the world right here from our state.
Well, it's so perfect that we're here because frankly this is a bet on America's innovation, and the President is said, if we take on this challenge, we can win.
From your mouth to God's ears. Let's do it. So please, a round of applause for our panelists at Fenster.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.